God's really blessed us sharing and hearing of His Word this morning as we pause and look at this morning's scripture reading, this parable in particular that Jesus had shared to this banquet. We're having a banquet on Tuesday, Shrove Tuesday. Keep that in mind also. But we see this morning that Jesus is talking in this parable about a king. He's having a marriage feast for his son. He sent out invitations, and the servants went out to invite people to come to the wedding feast, and they pretty much ignored the first invitation, and no one responded. And so he sends them out a second time. And this time he sends them out, and once again they go out and they tell everyone, everything's ready. The decorations are ready, the music is there, it's ready to go, the food is warm and ready to eat, and people are going to be there, and we want you to join us for this wedding feast. And it says that once again they didn't respond. Some went off to their farms, some went off to their businesses. And let me just pause there for a moment, because what they were doing in those circumstances, there really aren't bad things. They had things that needed to be done. I'm sure things that needed to be tended to. But I think one of the things we need to keep in mind is sometimes we let the second best overshadow the best. And I like what William Barclay has to say about this particular passage at this point. He says, it's easy for a man to be so busy with the things of time that he forgets the things of eternity. To be so preoccupied with the things which are seen that he forgets the things that are unseen. To hear so insistently the claims of the world that he cannot hear the soft invitation of the voice of Christ. The tragedy of life is that it is so often the second bests which shut out the bests. That it is things which are good in themselves which shut out the things that are supreme. A man can be so busy making a living that he forgets to make a life. He can be so busy with the administration and the organization of life that he forgets life itself. I think that's an interesting comment on what's being presented here. But even so, they didn't respond, and they didn't come to that marriage feast. And we see that even some of them took the servants and killed them, which I'm sure didn't make the king a very happy person at that point. And it didn't, because it just says he was outraged at this. He was really angered at what had happened. And so he says to the servants, the wedding's ready, but those who are invited really aren't worthy. They don't deserve to be here. So he said, go out into the street corners, go out into the city, go out to the street corners, and invite to the marriage feast as many people as you can find. Whoever you encounter, invite them to this wedding feast. And those servants went out into the streets, and they gathered everybody they could find, both bad and good. So the wedding hall was filled with guests. Jesus talked a lot in parables and the stories that he told, because it really got the point across many times. We can think of the church. It's kind of like a wedding feast. It's kind of like a wedding feast. And that's what Jesus is saying. It's a wedding feast that God has prepared. We come together, for example, here, and just stop and think about it. We have the candles are lit, we have flowers out, we have decorations up, we have banners and things like that. We had a chance to sit and stand around and talk with a few friends and get to see a few people. We have the scriptures open to us. We've heard scriptures. We've sung some songs already. Pretty soon we're going to be sharing in the Lord's Supper. The celebration's here, and it's begun. And the thing is, we need to ask ourselves, what is it what we're celebrating? Why are we here? And I think the main reason is that we're here to celebrate God's great love for his Son and God's great love for us. And as you look at the parable here, and what Jesus is saying there, look who was invited and who came. Both good and bad. There were people there that the king didn't even know. But they were all there. Not because they deserved to be there, but because of the grace of the king and his desire to have them as a part of this celebration. And we're here because God has touched our lives and he's shown us his grace and his love. And that's important for us to keep before us. Why we're gathered here and what this time is all about. Reminds me of a story of a fellow that fell into a deep well. He fell into this well. It was wet at the bottom. It was cold. The walls were, had algae growing and they were slippery. And he tried to climb and claw this well. He just couldn't do it. He tried yelling for help, but no one answered. And he kept clawing away and clawing away. He was exhausted. You know, his fingernails were kind of bloody from trying to climb up that wall, and he just couldn't do it. And finally, a man comes along and looks down the well and says, you know, he says, I can't get you out of the well, but I can help make it a little better for you. He said, here, have something to drink. Well, they happened to pass down a bottle of liquor, which he drank. And he was feeling okay for a while, but once he sobered up, he saw he was still in that same hole. He was still in that well, unable to get out. And he continues to cry for help, and a lady comes along and said, well, I can't get you out of the well, but you know, things could be a lot worse. You know, you just have to accept your situation and make the best of it. So he tried to think happy thoughts, and that didn't last very long because he was still in that well and he was still miserable. And it was tough because as he tried to climb out, he was so frustrated. He'd always been able to care for himself. He'd always been able to do everything for himself. He didn't necessarily need anybody else. And now here he was in this well, unable to get out on his own. And another man appeared. He said, you know, I can get you out of the well, but you have to trust me. Do you? And I thought, well, I've never really had to trust anyone like this before, but you know, it's worth a shot. He said, yes, I trust you. And as the story goes, Jesus dropped into that well. The man climbed upon his shoulders and climbed out of that well, and Jesus remained in his place. That's another little parable. That's a parable about our condition, about who we are. That's not just one person's story. It's the story of all of us. It's the story of us all. Scripture says all have sinned and fall short of God's glory, and that's not said to make us feel bad. It's just to say that we're all in the same well. We all begin in the same well. But somehow, some way, God reaches out with his grace. That's our condition. There's no way that you and I can pull ourselves out by our own efforts. We stand in the presence of God on the shoulders of Christ, or not at all. We stand in the presence of God on the shoulders of Christ. And there's a gospel song, Love Lifted Me. That says, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. We're here, not because of what we have done, but because of what Christ has done out of his mercy and out of his grace. And that's why we're here. We're here to celebrate that. We're here to offer our thanks and thankfulness to God for what he has done on our behalf. And it's not something just for us, but it's for all people. It's for all people. And that's important. That's important. It's for children and teens and young adults and older adults. It's for singles. It's for couples. It's for sinners and saints, one after another. It's for people from every walk of life. That's who that invitation's for. And we need to stop and really realize and understand that and the importance of it. And it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter whether we approve of them or not. It's God's invitation. It's not ours. And God calls us to extend that invitation through our faith